Good evening, friends. Hi, it's Josh here. I am going to welcome tonight on another episode of Funkin' Friends my friend Debbie Ridpath Ohi. So I'm sure she'll join in just a minute. Debbie is an awesome author and illustrator and pretty hilarious person, extremely creative. She's been making books for a while. She's got a great website, and she has a new book coming out pretty soon that is a cool idea because it's based on some of the creative activities that she does, which we'll get into shortly. So if you're just joining us, it's Funkin' Friends. Josh Funk here. I am my friend. There's Debbie. Okay, Inky Girl. Inky conversation. Hey, Debbie, how's it going? How are you?
Fine. How's it going? I was waiting for the invite, and I thought maybe I actually have to refresh, and that's what happened. So I've been waiting. I'm not late, am I? Am I
late? Don't worry about it.
Okay,
yeah, no, it's great. It's great to see you. It's been a while, I guess.
Has
it been since last year at Nerd Camp, probably?
Yeah.
In the summer?
Oh, I wasn't there. Was I there last year? I think I missed a Nerd Camp.
You missed last year. Oh, so it would have been, there was like a writing conference in Chicago that we bumped into each other. Yeah. I was in a cranky mood that weekend, so let's not talk about it. But yeah, so how are you? Do you want to introduce yourself? And
sure.
Yeah.
I'm children's book author, illustrator Debbie Ridpath Ohi, and I write and illustrate picture books. And I have my most recent one is illustrations for I'm Worried. Now, you told me if I hold up books, they appear reversed. Do they?
Yeah, but reversed? Don't worry about it. I have this. I figured it out that I can upload these to YouTube and spin it around.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, we can talk nerd talk later.
And this is the one that comes out August 25th. Gurple and Preen, a broken crayon cosmic adventure, written by Linda Sue Park and illustrated by me.
Yes, I'm very excited about that. But I want to start off because, I mean, I know a lot about you because we've been friends for, I think, over 5 years. But our relationship even goes back before we knew each other because your website helped me get one of my first book deals. That's a long story, and it's more about me than about you. Yeah. So you have an awesome website that you've been running for, I don't know, it's got to be more than a decade, right? At this point.
You mean on the internet?
Yeah, Inky Girl.
Yeah, I'm old, and so I had one of the first websites on the internet when the World Wide Web launched. I had one of the first websites, and my first website was InkSpot. Which was for children's book writers, but that's a long time ago. Now it's Inky Girl.
And so you ended up, you were a coder, right? You were an internet nerd back in the day, right? I don't know.
Yes,
tell me, explain it to me. I'm not actually sure I've ever heard the full story of, your life before writing.
But hold a second. It's a little bit warm in here, so I'm just gonna fan.
Oh, who's that?
Oh, look! 2 of my favorite characters!
All right, put it down. This is about you, not me. I'm serious.
Sorry. Okay, so
But that is wonderful. Thank you, by the way. Sorry.
I was a computer I have no art training or formal writing training, life training. But my first career was a programmer analyst. A computer programmer analyst for TD, which is, I'm not sure if you have TD in the US, Toronto Dominion. Anyway,
okay.
I helped program some of the interfaces that tellers used and stuff like that. And the people were really nice, but it wasn't, I was on the management track, and anyway, my boyfriend, who's not my husband, he saw how unhappy I was, so he convinced me to quit so I could pursue my creative dreams. So, and so that is when I quit the corporate track and threw myself into the arts. So I mainly did freelance writing. And then I also taught piano. I worked in a children's bookstore. I worked from the Toronto Public Library, all part-time. So
so you started out, you were writing novels at first. Is that right?
Yes.
That's what,
yes.
Yeah.
Middle
you still
grade.
Are.
Yes. Thank you for bringing up that. Because yes, my original career goal was middle grade writing, and that's how I got my awesome agent Ginger Knowlton at Curtis Brown through my friend Lee Wardlaw. And so I've written 4 middle grade novels. The first one I never sent out. It was really bad. I consider all of them my learning novels. The next 2, I gradually started improving. And that's when Lee Wardlaw introduced me to her agent, who is now my agent. And she sent out the next 2 middle grade novels, and they got nicer and nicer rejections. But in the end, I remember at the beginning, oh my gosh, I'm almost published, because the rejections, we made it past this, we just need you to do more revisions. And so it became heartbreaking, but that was useful experience, because we all need a thick skin, as you know, to survive long-term in this industry, because, even now I get rejections, and it helps me weather through less than perfect reviews and so forth. And then I wrote a 4th middle grade, but I never sent it out because I could tell it wasn't strong enough. Now I'm working, but I could tell I was improving. Then I decided, I'm going to enter the SCBWI manuscript critique program, and I sent in my middle. You know what? I happen to have, this is a portfolio that changed my career. It was made by my friend Beckett Gladney, who's artbeco.com. She made it to me. She and my sister helped convince me to enter the portfolio showcase, because my middle grade was rejected from the manuscript critique program, which is okay, because it's my fault for including. I'll show you a page. I've never shown this publicly before, but in my portfolio,
exclusive. This is a Funkin' Friends exclusive, everyone.
This was a page from my middle illustrated, and I was told that at that time, I'm not sure if rules had changed, you could not include any illustrations with middle grade. So I was so depressed. It was my fault for not reading all the rules. But then my friend helped me put together this. This is the portfolio. She made me this gorgeous portfolio cover, and these are the illustrations that were in my portfolio. It's my old, and it won 2 awards. One was not the top award, but one of two honor awards, and also the mentorship award. And on the honor award panel of judges was Justin Chanda from Simon Schuster, and he asked me, did you want to illustrate Michael Ian Black's newest book? And I'm grateful to Michael, because he could have nixed me because I wasn't unknown, but he liked my, I can't remember how he described, but he liked my illustrations. He okayed a totally unknown illustrator, and that is how my career began.
Yes,
in terms of children's books.
That's awesome. There's so much there. So in the there's a spider in my office. There was so I think one of the cool things that you've worked with a lot of amazing people. Michael Ian Black is super fun.
Awesome.
You've illustrated books for a lot of what's her name? Judy Blume.
I think Blume, yeah.
Blume, yeah. You got to re-illustrate how many of her books? Is it like a dozen or so?
10 covers, and then these 3, I just happen to have them beside me, Josh.
Yeah.
These 3 chapter books that I got to also, like Freckle Juice. I remember Freckle Juice. I was so thrilled. So
I read that in 3rd grade. That was my summer reading in 3rd grade.
So I got to help do these illustrations.
Yeah.
So I know. It's been amazing. It's been absolutely amazing.
That's super cool. So you had all of that. Michael Ian Black, I've always been a huge fan of his stuff, and I think Chicken Cheeks, which was I think his first book, we were big fans of in my family, but we actually used to watch not The State, but the show Ed that he was on.
And I've heard Ed, I've seen his other work, but
Yeah.
And I can't get old recording. Like you can't access old. If anyone out there knows how
I'm not sure it stands up. I don't know. I really liked it at the time. But
I want to see at least one episode. I want to see at least one.
Yeah. I mean, he was exactly what you'd expect, like the assistant manager of the bowling alley.
Okay.
And so, but he just, every episode he came with like a different goofy, funny thing. And it was definitely, I mean, I don't think he wrote the episodes. Maybe he wrote some, but he definitely brought exactly the character that you want with him. But yeah, so I love the 4 books you've done with him, but you're working on a 5th now, right?
Yes, so I've done Naked, I'm Bored, I'm Sad, I'm Worried, and now I'm working on I'm Bored, I'm Sad, and I'm Worried, and now I'm working on I'm Sorry. It's so good. It is so good that I'm not just. I remember when I received the manuscript, I immediately had to go up to my husband, who works at home all the time now, and had to read it out loud. It's the first manuscript I've ever received that I felt compelled to read it out loud. And I called my sister. I read it out loud. It's so good. And I just want to hug the potato and the flamingo so much. It's hard. Here's my potato.
If you don't know this series, it's called the I'm series, I think, but I like to refer to it more. You kind of have to hold all the covers up because it's really the girl, potato, and flamingo series.
Yeah, that's right.
Is kind of how it goes. But they're really great at talking about emotions with your kids or just entertaining adults. I mean, it works on all of those levels. But they're great for that because they're universal feelings that everybody has. And I mean, I've heard you and Michael speak about it at times, but it really rings true and they resonate with me. And I think they would resonate with a lot of people with, for example, in I'm Sad, it's okay to be sad. That's what you come away with. And that's okay. You won't be sad forever. And I mean, those are some of the things that, like, right now, especially, I'm feeling, and I'm worried as well. But, a lot of those feelings, and I'm bored, they kind of all fit right now. But they kind of describe many of our lives at the moment. But those are great books.
True.
But you've also written...
Actually, when I got the manuscript for I'm Sad.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry, you froze for a second. I don't want to. No, when I got the manuscript for I'm Sad, I remember crying at the end, and every time I got to the ending, I just wept. And so it was because of things going on in my life at the time. So I found before I could start objectively illustrating it, I had to reread it until I could read it without crying, and that way I could. But I love. He's such a good writer. And he leaves so much room for the illustrator. I love that so much.
Well, yeah, you can. I mean, you add a lot to those. The facial expressions, even the whole body expressions. Like the way. Just look at the cover of I'm Bored. She just, like everything about that. You can just It's not just her face. It's her whole body. Anyway,
but
do a great job with that.
I have to tell you a little bit that this was my first children's picture book, and I worked with the awesome art director Laurent Lynn, and this was
wait, hold on. You grew up with him?
No. I worked with Laurent.
Oh, you got to work with him.
No, I wish I grew up with him. That would be awesome. But I remember, because I have no art training and no anatomy training or anything, I remember I didn't have the position exactly right, and Laurent said, "Oh, it's coming along well, but could you fix her so that she looks more, anatomically correct?" And I went, "Sure." And then I called my sister, who is also a children's book author, illustrator. These are some of her most recent books. And I cried. I said, "You gotta help me because I didn't know how," and I tried, and she's like, "Yeah, I'll help you." And so she got tracing paper and just did a really rough sketch. I went, "Oh my gosh." So there is an advantage that people have if you have our formal art training. And also, when anyone asks me for advice, aspiring writer or illustrator is you need to surround yourself with really supportive friends and family, because that makes a huge difference. I remember in the beginning, in my early hundreds of rejections, thinking, I have to, because I'm an introvert actually, and I don't want to have to network and everything. I'll just work really hard in my craft, and I'll send out my manuscript, and eventually it will hit the right editor at the right time. And while that probably happens for some people, it wasn't happening for me, and that's what kind of motivated me to seek out other people, like other people in the community, to start going to conferences and meeting people. And it's really hard, especially if you tend to be quiet and hermit-like. But I find over time, and I'm not sure, I'd be curious to know if you consider yourself an introvert or extrovert. But I find that it does get easier. It does, and it can even be fun as long as you, and I'd be also interested in hearing your opinion on this, as long as you remain authentic to yourself. I know that sounds kind of, but it's true, because if you try to pretend you're more outgoing than you're not, it'll, people will eventually know it's not the real you. But if you seek out like-minded people who will support you, I find that makes a huge difference, especially if it helps you enjoy the whole networking thing. I hate the word networking because it has such a negative connotation. I think of it more as you're seeking out like-minded people. But how about you? Are you an introvert or extrovert?
I'm an extrovert. Yeah,
okay.
I'm okay with it. I like your feelings on the word networking, though. I agree. It feels like you're only doing it for the purposes of business.
Yeah,
and that's not the best approach. It's important to be genuine, and it's important to be yourself. And yeah, we all know that we want to eventually sell a book, or publish a book, or if we're at a big conference, we want to tell the teachers about our book, but we can't just be like, buy my book, buy my book, buy my book all the time. Nobody wants to hear that. So you have to actually work on forming genuine relationships, which, whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, you could be good or bad at that, regardless.
And it just takes practice. And also, I think it's important, and you're so great at this, it's not all about you. Like, it's all, yes, of course, you have to draw the line about not spending so much all your time on social media. I have to watch that too. But
you and me both.
I think there's a real value in supporting the rest of the community. And so I always cringe when I see a new or about to be published author or illustrator saying, oh, I have a book coming out. My publisher wants me to promote it. Now's the time for me to start posting on social media, even though that person has never supported anybody in the past and is clearly just, leaping on. And I feel for them in a way, but also part of me feels like, that's the worst time to promote yourself on social media is if you're brand new to the community, and if you're clearly only being part of social media to promote yourself and your books.
I think that one of the best things that I had was that I had people like you that I could emulate, and you and Jeff Keating and Tara Lazar and things like that. No, I'm serious, because I was able to see what you were doing, and you had a blog where you were sharing other people's writing, you were connecting people with editors, you were giving advice to writers. I mean, you were giving back, and knowing that that's an important aspect when you can't just ask for things from people. You have to be a part of the community.
It's true.
And
it's true.
Giving is being a part of that. And so
I have to interrupt though. I have to interrupt because you're making all about me. Yes, I know I'm your. But I think it's all about passing it forward. It's not. So the reason I tend to promote a lot of people, same reason, is because, again, I'm older than a lot of you, and so I've been around a long time. So I so clearly identify with those who are trying to get noticed, because I've had so many rejections from before the time rejections came by email. I'm an old timer. I have like paper rejections. It was like they're all tear stained now because I cried over them so many times. So I so know what it's like on the other side. And I also, it drives me a little bit crazy when people say, oh, you're like a Cinderella story. You just like appeared. How lucky you are. But what I found is people only, and you can't blame people really. We only tend to notice people when we notice them. I know it doesn't make much sense.
Yeah.
We tend not to notice people when they're, you know, trying to get noticed, and it's only when they got a contract. Oh my gosh, you know, like I'm paying attention now. And of course, it's impossible to try to notice everyone, but that's one reason that I try to help, and I know you do the same thing. I try to help those who are trying to get noticed, who are they're doing everything right. They're doing everything right. They're working on their craft. They're meeting other people, but they're not, they feel like they're hitting a wall, because I was so at that point. And it just takes the one crack in the wall, the one open door, and everything begins to happen. My friend, Maureen McGowan, who's a wonderful YA author in Toronto, she has a great analogy. Publishing industry success is a lot like getting hit by lightning. While you can't control when lightning hits, you can sort of work on your own lightning rod and prove it. And my friend Kevin Sylvester, he agrees, but he says you also have to be ready when lightning hits. And that's why I believe that even if you're only, like you're hitting that wall and you feel you're not being noticed, you could still keep working on, you know, learning how to use social media, working on your craft, reading as much as you can. I have to breathe, because
breathe.
I feel so much for people who are trying to get noticed.
Yeah, you wouldn't know, but that you're an introvert from this conversation. But you're fooling us well.
No. I actually am not great at public speaking or this, but I find and actually when my editor first approached me to go on my first book tour, this is ages and ages ago, I actually said no. I said I can do it first because I was so terrified. Also, I have a slight speech issue. Like I couldn't even say the word hello when I was in elementary school, and someday I will write about it. But I found that the minute I started talking to people about how nervous I was about public speaking and everything, it helped me relax. And I find I'm okay talking to people as long as I feel what I'm saying is useful to the people who are listening. I think the worst thing for me is if I'm asked to give an impromptu speech all about myself, like me, I would just freeze up.
Yeah. Well, I think also you're not alone. You know, whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, you can still be a little nervous about talking in front of people. But what you have to say is valuable, and I think you know that. You know that, and you know that you're helping people.
Something important, I think, to say.
Yeah. Well, but I mean specifically, you know, talking about writing, talking about illustrating, talking about all of that. You know, you have information that other people want to absorb because you have a lot of stuff to give. I want to ask you, so when we first met, it was probably the second summer, because I think the first year, I don't know, we were in some carpools at nerd camp, and the nerds in a car, and nerd van, but we did stop at the Bob's Big Boy. I think it was the second year in 2016, and you had been at the time, you've done a lot of really creative things with lots of different types of art where you incorporate real world things into your art. And you're doing a lot of food, I think, at the time. And so you drew a picture, and I'll make sure to share this, but of me and you and I want to say Jason and Leslie and maybe a couple other people in a pepper boat. You made like us canoeing in a boat. Yeah. And so I still have that picture. You've done a lot of coffee food stain type things. I see you do things with shadows, which is super cool. There's one that always pops up with like a little girl who's leaning on a shadow of a pencil. I feel, so, and you've done a lot of comics over the years. I recognize as you were flipping through the portfolio, you have loads of comics that a lot of them are about writing, but not, not all of them. I feel like some
Right.
of them you've even had other people give you the captions for them, and
Yes.
and you
Yeah.
shared the credit, and so you have all that stuff. But at some point, you started doing these broken crayons, and
Right.
when did that start, and how did that start?
It began when I've always loved, well, for years and years, like to do art with found objects. And I was just looking, and I
Found
used to just
object
go
art.
around.
That's what I was trying to say.
Yeah,
Found
found
object
object
art.
art.
Yeah.
And I was just looking around, and I love crayons. And I broke a crayon accidentally. It was accidental. Or there was a broken crayon, and I just thought, oh. Then I thought, oh, maybe I could incorporate this crayon into a picture. So I put the two pieces down. I thought, wait, maybe I don't have to, maybe I'll make something coming out of the broken crayon. And then I posted that, and the reaction, and this is why there's some people that hate social media. I find it depends, because I find that sometimes social media, it just, okay, I'll show you. For example, for Gurple and Preen, this book would, Gurple and Preen, this book would not have happened if it were not for everybody who encouraged me. And that's why, this is maybe reversed, hopefully you'll fix it. This is to, like, everybody who encouraged me, because it made a huge difference. And so I got this overwhelming positive response. I thought, oh, let's try breaking another crayon. And then I had so much fun with it. Like, that's one thing. If I don't have fun with the found object art, it doesn't matter how positive the response is, I'll move on to something else. And another thing I've learned is that it's important for me to continue to make a lot of art that I don't share publicly, because I don't know about you, but I have found that if I'm making art that I know I'm going to share publicly, it does have an influence in me. Like, it's like I have found that if I post anything happy, cheering, cute, especially if it involves a cat, a lot of cat people out there, or a happy child, always gets way more likes. But I also have this other side of me, a little bit quirky, not kind of scary, Edward Gorey, and I like that too. And when I post those sort of things, like, people are confused, but I have to remind myself that it's okay. So that's why I think it's important for everyone to play, and create things in private that are not necessary for public consumption. And that way you'll feel more free to explore. That's one of the main things I've discovered.
That's great advice. That's not something that I do all that often. I'm not saying I only write to create things that will turn into books, but I don't do too much writing for myself. That I know is for myself.
How do you manage your time? Because you do everything. You have this series going. You are so prolific. You post.
Well, hold on. This is only episode 5. I've committed to I think about 25 or 30 of them, based on I guess I have a lot of friends, but yeah, we'll see. We'll see how this goes. Hopefully people are watching it and enjoying it. I don't know. I'm honestly, I mean, the reason that I'm doing this, and I said this to you in email, is that I miss my friends. I haven't seen you all in conferences and writing workshops and education conferences. And so I figure we can catch up, but also share some stuff with people that they haven't seen. So how did Linda get involved? I'm sure this is like the answer you're doing in all your blog interviews and things, but how did Linda get involved with the broken crayon? I remember a couple of years ago hearing something about how you were talking about it with her, and she said something like, when you find the right story, or you were saying, I need to find the right story before I can turn it into it. She was like, I'll take a crack at it, or something like that. But tell me the story.
Well, and I should point out that I only found out early on that I called her Linda, but it's actually Linda Sue. So
Linda Sue. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Linda Sue.
Thank you for correcting me.
So early on, I was approached by a number of authors that I really admire, and publishers who were very eager to, see things like have my broken crayons in books. But for me, I just wanted to play for a while. And also I really wanted to write my own story, because I want to get more of my writing out there. So I worked very, very hard at writing my own story, but I couldn't come up with a story I wanted to illustrate. And I know that sounds really weird, but I have a certain it's hard to describe, but I'm becoming pickier about what kind of books I want to illustrate. I want to really enjoy them. I also want to feel like I'm learning something with every story. And I really couldn't, I didn't want to just write a story about something coming out of a broken crayon and the whole thing of being, you know, I may someday, I wanted something more. And also if I was just one crayon, then I'd have to figure out, you know, well, what's going to happen the rest of the thing. And anyway, so I was right at the point where, oh, I don't know. And I knew Simon Schuster was hoping to see something from me. So then I was at the SCBWI Northern Ohio Research Conference, and Linda Sue and I were both on faculty. And we compared notes, and neither of us remembers exactly what happened, but in the court, because this is the first time I've ever talked to her like more than hello, and I was so intimidated. Linda Sue Park, a single shirt and everything. So I remember talking to her husband first, and she was on the other side of me, and I was talking to her husband, who's such a sweetie, and I said, I'm really nervous about, I want to talk to your wife, but I'm really, you should talk to her. And so anyway,
wait, how nervous could you have been if you parked yourself between her and her husband?
I wasn't, I didn't park myself. I can't remember if there was assigned seating, but yeah, maybe I did. Maybe I was really, I can't remember. You know, that's the advantage as I get older. I can blame my aging brain cells. I can't remember, Josh. I'm not sure why. But anyway, I was right beside her, and I knew she liked my broken crayon art because she had texted me and asked, because the two of us have the same agent. It's not the reason she texted me, but she wanted to know if my gray robot one with there's a robot coming out of a gray broken crayon, if it was for sale or if there was a print available. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, Linda Sue. So I did not, I said, I'm happy to send it to you, but I don't want any payment. She said, yes, you. And so when I refused payment, she made a donation in my name to We Need Diverse Books instead. So anyway, we ended up chatting, and she says, I'm assuming you're, like, she's so respectful of illustrators, like you are, you know, and she said, I'm assuming you're working on your own story. And that's when I confessed to her, well, actually, I'm having trouble. And we kind of did this polite dance around each other. Like, when I got the feeling she'd be open to illustrating, and she got the feeling I kind of needed someone. So in the end, I was thrilled when she agreed to try writing something. And she said, you know, it might be weeks, it might, you know, and in the end, if you don't like it, no problem at all. But she went home, and that night, I think she came up with the idea, and then we started talking about it, and we decided to pitch it together to my editor at Simon Schuster, and he loved it. So that's how. That's awesome. But I was thrilled.
So I haven't actually read it because it's not out until it's August 25th. Is that correct?
August 25th. Yes.
Yeah. So, but I have pre-ordered it. But what is it about? What is the story? Do we need to know? Do we need to know the story though?
It's basically about can you see this?
Yeah.
These two robots. This is I don't have the final version, so I'm worried about pages falling. Oh, that's a note for my editor. Okay, so this rocket ship crash lands on an asteroid or planet, and all the cargo is stored in crayons, of course. And the little green robot who doesn't talk all the way through, her name is Preen, and the taller robot, her name is Gurple. And Gurple's very anxious, very anxious. Oh my gosh, what's going on, Preen? Where are you? And she sees Preen, and she's, oh my gosh, you know, like what's, okay, so the whole thing, Gurple is freaking out because how are we going to repair all the rocket ship, and since all the cargo, she's trying to open all the cargo to try to find the pods and the repair things, and I'm not explaining it very well because I'm so
it's fine. You don't have to read the whole book. Yeah.
No.
I haven't even seen what it looks like.
So just one sample scene. So Gurple is open, like, oh my gosh, I can't use this, and all these objects, and she tosses the objects. By Preen, meanwhile, quiet Preen, she just goes about and starts picking them up, and she finds uses for each of these objects. So one of the things I love about Linda Sue's story is that part of the underlying message is that, you know, all these things you're throwing out, you could use for other things, like for, you know, and so in the end, I'm not going to give away the ending, but all the objects are being used to help repair the rocket ship. And some of the larger pods, there's child astronauts come up, and there's a twist ending. And the last spread, I don't want to give it away because it's so good. And when I first read Linda Sue's manuscript, I got all teary-eyed at the end. So I'm hoping people like this. I'm
sure everyone will. No, I'm excited about it. I also wanted to ask you too, because Sam and Ava is one of my favorites too. It's one of those stories, and I've told you this before. Do you have a copy of that one around? Because
I just happen to have a copy.
Oh, all right.
Yes.
So this is the second book you wrote, right?
Yes.
Okay. But it's one of those stories that I'm jealous that I didn't write it, and not in a mean way or anything. But it's like, oh, that is such a cool story from a writing perspective, and the illustrations are great too. Like, it needs exactly the illustrations that it has, but yeah, from a storytelling perspective, I feel like it's about a brother and sister, and they're it's sort of meta, but not really, and they're drawing things. And anyway, it's all about creativity. I love that story. I don't have a copy because I gave it away to my niece, but yeah, I think that it's that one it's from 2-3 years ago, but it's a great one, and everyone should definitely check out Sam and Ava also if you have a chance.
Thank you very much.
I wanted to ask you one other question before I get to my 5 random questions from a hat.
Okay. All right.
One is the question, Animal Crossing. So how are you doing?
Such an Animal Crossing addict. Now I heard your wife.
Yeah, my wife it's my wife's island. My son and my daughter go. I don't, but I've been around for lots of do you have a favorite villager right now? How many stars does your island have? Where are you? How far along are you?
I'm fairly far along. My island probably has no stars. I don't tend to check the numbers.
Do you have the KK Slider concert yet?
Yes.
Have you had that?
Yes.
Okay, so you've got to be at like the 3-star level or something to get that to happen.
KK Slider comes and performs every Saturday. And also, I paid off my home loan, and I'm totally into the turnip thing. And now I've sold enough turnips that at high prices on other people's islands that I'm not hurt for Animal Crossing cash anymore. So now I'm just redesigning my island. So I'm really enjoying that. Really, really enjoying that.
Yeah, my researcher.
I love it so much. And part of it is because the worst thing that can happen to you is that you're chopping wood and, oh no, wasps come out. I'm stung by wasps, but you can take medicine. So I began playing it, early in the pandemic, and just because I found it wasn't stressful. It was very relaxing. You just go around, water the flowers, talk to the neighbors, collect things, and
they're adorable. My wife feels the same way. Yeah. So do you have a favorite villager or a couple?
I'm not loyal to any particular villager right now.
Okay.
Right now, I just got a new villager. It's a squirrel. It looks like an evil squirrel. So I had to lure him or her to the island, but that's just happened today. So I'm very curious. My least favorite villager, no, I shouldn't say that in case anyone out there loves a villager. Well, there's one
no,
villager.
We definitely have some least favorite. It's okay to have least favorite.
Okay, because this one villager, all he talks about is working out.
Yes, that's the ones my wife hated. We had Bam. Bam did that. I forget, that was like a cow or a moose something. And then we had someone else that did that. Yeah, my wife was not into the working out thing.
Yeah, I'm just so.
Yeah, she has them. She got to give them their own catchphrases and things like that. So she's having fun with it. It's the same for her. I think it's just kind of like a little bit of a, let me step out of the world for a minute and not have to worry about all the other things. So.
Yeah, but I have to say that I use Animal Crossing as part of a workout too, especially if it's really hot out, because I try to only let myself play if I'm walking or I'm running in place.
Yeah, I saw that on social media. That's great.
And I know it sounds, and this is not, I'm not naturally an athletic person. So I'm a nerdy gamer person, so this keeps me more conscious of how long I'm playing Animal Crossing, because at some point my Apple Watch is going, oh, exercise goal achieved. Really? Really? But I still have more turnips to sell.
Yeah, I saw somebody, I don't know how you design the ground or whatever, but somebody made a potato on the ground.
Yes.
You tweeted that out? Yeah.
My friend Matthew.
So,
yeah.
Okay, so let's see. 5 questions. What is your favorite food that starts with the letter C?
Cake.
Cake? Okay.
Yeah.
Not cupcakes? You like cakes better than cupcakes?
Well, no, you know what? My favorite dessert is cake, and I love miniature food. So cupcakes. So cupcakes is my favorite dessert because they're like miniature cakes.
Okay. Yeah, I'm down with that. Mine is candy corn, but yeah. Oh, this is
Candy
good for this is good for you. In case people haven't noticed, you live in Canada, and you're from Canada. This says, are you for
Canadian meeple earrings? Yeah, sorry.
All right. Are you for or against the bare naked ladies?
I haven't listened to them in a while, but I used to be for. I actually have not. No, I'm thinking of Great Big Sea. I like the Bare Naked Ladies theme song to Big Bang. Okay. And I just haven't listened to them in a while. So probably the original members are no longer there. I haven't listened, but I used to be a big fan.
I think they make kids music now. They've done some of that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I gotta check them out.
Okay. Right. I liked them back in the 90s. So yeah. I don't know. People make fun of them sometimes, and I like them. I mean, I don't think they need that, but yeah.
No.
So, okay. Let's see. Another question. Have you ever been stung by a bee?
Yes, I have. And I remember I was traumatized by it because I was at Marineland. I was on a school trip, and there was a wasp that was flying around. But I remember I told my father, he said, they'll leave you alone if you just ignore them. And I went, okay. And so on this trip, one landed on my arm, and I went, okay, I'm leaving you alone. And it stung me. So ever since then, I do not trust wasps.
Yeah, I mean, what is there to trust? So, all right. Okay.
And in Animal Crossing, I don't like them either.
Yes. Okay. So yeah, you were gonna say the worst thing that happens, or the scorpions, the scorpion bites.
The scorpions. That's
so.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But I've learned how to catch them now.
Is there a trick? I mean, it's just hard.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No. You have to be very patient. You have your net, and you hit A while you're creeping up, and then as soon as it raises its claws or whatever it's called, like you wait until it goes, and then you close, and then finally you go, and you have a scorpion as well. And that works on tarantulas as well. I've not caught a tarantula yet.
Oh, are the tarantulas the new ones? Scorpions were last season? I don't know. They change it up on different months.
They change, and it depends what hemisphere you're in.
Yeah.
I know way too much about this.
No, I know. I mean, you haven't time traveled to like increase your money and things like that.
No, I don't know. I'm a purist.
I wouldn't either. I think that's
no time traveling. No.
All right. Question number 4: PETA or Gale?
Gale?
PETA or Gale from the Hunger Games?
Oh.
PETA or Gale?
Oh, they're so young. They're
neither. Okay, you like Haymitch
PETA,
is what you're saying?
Probably PETA.
Okay, not Haymitch. You can go with Haymitch if you want, but
no, PETA.
All right, PETA.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I mean, I would probably go with PETA. My wife would go with Gale. I mean, look at me, So, but I could be the next Hemsworth. But okay, and last question is, do you own a shredder?
No. I would love to own a shredder, but I wonder if my husband does. He might own a little tiny one. You know what? I think he owns a little tiny one. I've never used it though.
I always wonder if like big famous people have shredders. Like do you shred things? Yeah, I do. I shred the junk mail and stuff.
Oh yeah? No, I think he got them because we had so many tax paper things accumulated. And when we lived in a condo, all our trash was mixed with everybody else. And so I think he was shredding some of our old tax stuff. I'm not sure if he still has it, though. And in fact, I'm going to ask, because the paper that comes out of the shredder, that would be pretty cool for art, don't you think?
It could be, definitely. I mean, you could shred lots of things and see what's the best found objects from a shredder.
That's true.
Didn't Banksy just do that? He had a painting.
Really?
I think it was a painting for auction, and as soon as the person bid on it, half of it went through a shredder. Yeah.
That's right.
So,
that's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
But anyway, well, thank you so much for joining me. And did you have anything else that you wanted to share? Any other books you're into?
Can I play a little tune?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Okay. So my last name's Ohi, which is pronounced Oe. And some people, I used to have a website called Inkspot. I had advertisers, and I talked to one of my advertisers on the phone who had never seen me, and he asked if I was Irish, because maybe he thought my name was Ohi. Anyway, I think I have Irish in my blood somewhere, because I love Irish music, and I used to go to these Irish music sessions in Toronto, and I actually had been, at one point, I had a lot of tunes. Okay, so anyway, I'm going to play the Galway Rambler, okay? All right. You heard that okay? Okay. And I always keep this, thank you, near, and I do not exaggerate. I always keep this within arm's length. And when if I'm thinking about something or I have a little bit of a block, I'll take this out and I'll play, and it's always relaxes me. But now I play Animal Crossing, though.
Yeah. That was awesome. Well, we'll have to talk about your music another time, because I know you're a musician, you've been in bands and things like that. So
well, you and I have to play music together sometime.
Yeah, well, yes. I promise sometime in the next decade we'll find a time to play music together. But that was great. Where can people find you on social media?
Inky Girl. I made the mistake early on not to include the same name for all across social media. So on Twitter, Inky Elbows, Instagram, Inky Girl. Just look up my name.
All right, I'll paste it somewhere.
Okay.
So awesome. Thank you so much. It's great to see you. And I hope
fun.
that you keep doing well, and we'll cross paths pretty soon.
All right. It's good seeing you.
All right. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.